I tell you this as calmly as I can, because when I replay that weekend in my head, the sound that rises first is quiet. The hum of the highway, the chatter of roadside radios, the clicking of my turn signal as the boys and I headed north with a bouquet from the gas station and a trunk full of surprises. I had planned something sweet, an ambush of smiles. My wife, Eva, had taken our kids for what she called a reset. "Just me and the little ones," she said, meaning our daughter Mia and our youngest, Max. Our older two, Luke and Jordan, had sports and midterms, so they stayed with me. By Saturday morning, both boys were free, and I got a bright idea. Let's drive up and take them all out for pancakes, bring flowers, be the heroes. It would show Eva she didn't have to do everything alone. It would show the kids their dad could still do magic. The lodge sat by a lake where the water kept secrets under gray ice. I'd booked it for her myself, cozy 2-bedroom with a kitchenette, walking distance to a trail with signs about owls. She'd loved the pictures. "Exactly the reset I wanted," she'd said, kissing my cheek. I figured she was tired from juggling work and the toddler's sudden dislike of naps. I figured I was helping. That morning, with takeout hot chocolate stashed in a cooler and a bag of little gifts, Mia's sticker book, Max's toy fire truck, a new scarf for Eva, we turned off the freeway and followed the road through pines. Luke drove the last stretch. He'd just gotten his license and concentrated like he was landing a plane. Jordan scrolled through the playlist. I felt like the conductor of a harmless heist. We whispered in the hallway outside the room, balancing cartons of pancakes and a cup holder sloshing with syrup. I knocked the secret knock the kids know from movie night. No answer. I checked the text thread. The last message from Eva said, "We're going to nap early after sledding." Perfect, I thought. Surprise wake-up, laughter, breakfast for lunch. I used the spare key from the front desk, the one I'd justified by saying I might drop off a care package. The door swung open to a blast of heater warmth and a ribbon of winter air. What I saw first were 2 little coats on the chair, tiny shoes tipped over like they'd run and fell asleep. That was the second of calm. Then noises from the back bedroom, the one Eva had said she'd take for herself while the kids used the other. The sounds weren't sleep. They were breathy and playful, the kind of whispers that once belonged to us. Jordan froze with the syrup. Luke's eyes flashed to mine. Inside me, something went very still, then moved, like a lake cracking under ice. I set the flowers down because my hands had started to shake. I didn't storm. I didn't shout. I walked like a man carrying a tray through a crowded diner, deliberate, careful not to spill. The boys followed because they didn't know not to. I opened the bedroom door. Sunlight washed the room pale. A man I didn't know scrambled, and Eva grabbed the sheet. Her voice broke into 3 pieces: my name, a protest, a plea. She said it wasn't what it looked like, which made Luke laugh once. A hard, dry sound. Mia's stuffed rabbit lay on the nightstand, its ears pointing toward the scene like quotation marks. I turned away first because I didn't need more proof. The boys didn't stare either. They were too stunned, too hurt. I asked, quiet as a library, "Where are Mia and Max?" Eva said the lodge daycare, morning program with crafts, back at noon. Good, I thought. Good that they weren't here to see this. My chest felt tight, like I had sprinted a mile. The man reached for his jeans and said something about leaving, that he didn't want trouble. He was maybe 30, gym fit, with a haircut that looked expensive. My palm lifted without thinking and pressed against his shoulder, guiding him toward the wall, not hard, not cruel, just enough to keep him from blundering past me into the hall where other guests might see our family. Splinter in real time. "Wait," I said, steady. "You don't walk out on my children's weekend without telling me your name." He gave it. Tyler. He could barely look at me. My brain cataloged pointless details. Faint cologne, a small tattoo near his collarbone, a necklace with a surfboard charm. It was absurd, like encountering a tourist in the middle of your kitchen. He said he met Eva at the coffee bar by the lake. He said a lot. Flustered, shallow breaths, a string of apologies that didn't touch anything. I held him in place with my hand while Eva wrapped herself in the sheet and kept saying, I'm sorry, please." Jordan put the syrup on the dresser and took a step closer, taller than me now, shoulders tense under his hoodie. Luke's jaw worked like he was chewing on anger. I told them, "Back up. Take a breath." They did, because they're good kids even in terrible moments. Another guest rattled a key in the hall, and I realized we needed to end this quickly, quietly. I didn't want an audience, a story for strangers, a rumor that would follow my daughter onto a school bus someday. "Get dressed," I said to Tyler. "You're leaving. You can use the back stairs." He pulled on clothes with clumsy speed. The room's hush filled with little noises, zippers, the rustle of fabric, my heartbeat. When he tried to rush past us, Luke moved like a striker cutting off a lane, not touching him, just blocking. Tyler misjudged the space and collided with the door frame. There was a sound, a clean crack, not from bone, from his necklace hitting wood. He winced, stepped back, and for a second glared at all of us, shame turning to bluster. I stared back, unwilling to carry his blame. Jordan said, low, "Don't." Tyler's attempt at bravado collapsed. He slipped out, quiet, down the service hall. Silence stayed a long breath. Eva stood in the corner holding the sheet, her hair tangled, eyes bright with tears she hadn't let drop. The boys didn't look at her. They stared at the carpet, at the rabbit on the nightstand, at anything. I set the breakfast on the counter and took a slow inhale that tasted like heaters and lemon cleaner. I didn't know whether to sit or leave or open the window and let winter kill the heat. "I wanted space," Eva said, voice small. "The trip was supposed to be space. I felt alone at home and then—" She stopped because the next words would be excuses, and she knew it. My mind jumped to 1,000 Tuesdays, school emails, overdue bills, laughing about a meme, folding laundry at midnight. Had we stopped seeing each other somewhere between a dentist appointment and a grocery run? Yes. And still, this. I told the boys to give us 5 minutes. They stepped into the living room, but I could feel them listening, hurt eavesdroppers on their own lives. I kept my tone soft. "Why, Ava?" She sat on the edge of the bed, pulled the sheet tighter, and hunted for an answer like a set of lost keys. I felt invisible, like I had been drafted into a life I didn't choose. The days blur. You're kind, but you're always fixing something, making lists, solving. I needed to feel wanted, not scheduled. I thought a weekend away would reset me, and I met someone who looked at me like I had not vanished. She closed her eyes. It was selfish, I know. I wanted to argue. I wanted to ask whether I hadn't been looking too. All those times I brought home her favorite coffee, rubbed her shoulders after bedtime, sent emails at 2 a.m. so she wouldn't have to. But the word stuck because this wasn't a courtroom, and even if I laid out every exhibit, the verdict had already happened. The truth sat between us like a chair no one wanted to acknowledge. "What happens now?" I asked. "In the next hour?" The kids come back. They expect sledding and hot chocolate. They expect parents who can stand next to each other without the floor collapsing. Eva nodded, wiping her eyes. "I'll get dressed. We'll take them out. Tonight you can have the kids in the second room. I'll sleep on the couch, and tomorrow you can drive them home while I stay to sort my head. Then we talk with counselors or lawyers or pastors or whoever can keep the kids safe from this mess. I won't argue. I won't hide." I couldn't promise tomorrow. I could only organize the next few hours like a disaster response. I told her I'd cover the morning with the boys, to give her time to collect herself and to move that man's presence out of our air. She nodded, grateful and ashamed at once. I stepped into the living room where Luke and Jordan sat on the couch like they had turned into statues. I put a hand on each shoulder. They flinched, then leaned into me. Not quite a hug, not quite resistance. "We're going to be okay today," I said. "That's the whole plan. Today. The little ones will be back soon. We're taking them to the pancake house by the marina. We're going to smile because they need us to. Tomorrow we'll figure the rest out." Luke's throat bobbed. "Dad, is this the end?" Jordan swallowed a word he didn't want to say. I didn't know the answer, so I told them the truth I could hold. "This is a storm. I'm the boat. You're the crew. No one goes overboard." They both breathed out, and I saw the boys I raised inside the young men they were becoming, loyal, protective, still kids. It hit me again how wrong it was that they had seen any of it. I promised myself the rest of this story would happen on adult time, with adult voices, away from the small ears that only wanted bedtime songs. Eva emerged, dressed in jeans and a sweater that I'd bought last Christmas. She looked like the person I knew and a stranger both. She apologized to the boys. They didn't answer, not out of cruelty, out of confusion. Jordan handed her Mia's rabbit. "She left this," he said, and that small mercy almost undid me. We cleaned the room without speaking much, sheets straightened, trash thrown away, breakfast laid out like a peace offering. I opened the window a crack and let fresh air filter through. We practiced our smiles in the reflections of the dark TV screen, expressions that said normal, fun, pancakes, sledding, nothing to see here. It felt silly and necessary. At noon exactly, the door opened and Mia burst in carrying a paper owl on a popsicle stick. Max trailed behind with glitter on his cheeks and a crown made of construction paper. Their joy entered the room before they did. "Daddy!" Mia squealed. "Surprise!" I laughed at the timing. "You beat me to it," I said, kneeling to scoop her up. Max raised his arms and I lifted him too, one kid on each hip, the weight of them anchoring me to the floor. Eva stood a step away and watched with a smile that trembled. We bundled everyone into coats. Luke carried the flowers back to the car without comment. Jordan took charge of napkins and mittens. The five of us walked out into the bright cold, a family that looked fine if you didn't examine the seams. In the parking lot, a gust lifted the scarf from the gift bag and sent it skittering. Eva chased it and wrapped it around her neck, the color warm against the winter light. "Pancakes," I announced, that cheerful, reliable dad voice I keep for field trips and snow days. It sounded steady, and that surprised me. The kids cheered. We climbed into the SUV, and I adjusted the mirror. My eyes looked older than they had that morning. I touched the steering wheel, felt the leather, felt the present moment, and turned the key. On the way to the marina, Mia told a story that ran on and on about a snowman named Captain Marshmallow who sailed the lake in a teacup. Max added sound effects. The boys asked about toppings, and I promised chocolate chips. Eva stared out at the icy water, holding the rabbit in her lap like a talisman. No one mentioned the morning. The sun slid through clouds and warmed the dashboard. We drove, and for 20 blessed minutes we were only a family going out for lunch on a winter day. I clung to that normalcy with both hands, knowing the reckoning waited. If you want the rest, ask me, and I'll tell you how a quiet plan turned into a loud aftermath. How revenge can be colder than the lake and still avoid doing harm. How I learned the difference between winning and healing. For now, the pancakes were hot, the kids were laughing, and my breath finally slowed. The pancake house smelled like cinnamon and maple syrup, that comforting mix that pretends everything's fine. We sat at a corner booth overlooking the frozen marina, where boats slept under white tarps. The kids colored on the paper placemats, oblivious to the quiet war behind our smiles. Ava and I faced each other like diplomats who had signed a fragile peace. The boys sat between us, protective walls pretending to be sons eating chocolate chip pancakes. Every word we exchanged was safe and short. "How's the cocoa, Mia?" "So good, Daddy." "That's great. How's your food, Ava?" "Perfect," she said softly, not meeting my eyes. The syrup shimmered like amber. My mind drifted to how close I'd come to losing my temper that morning. I hadn't raised a hand, but anger had buzzed through my veins like static. Now I sat across from her, steady only because the kids' laughter anchored me. When the plates were cleared, I paid and left a big tip. Somehow, politeness made me feel in control. Outside, the wind bit our cheeks. We strolled down to the lake's edge where the kids ran ahead, tossing handfuls of snow. Eva and I followed at a distance. She spoke first. "Thank you for keeping it calm," she said quietly. "You could have ruined everything. You didn't." I nodded. "I did it for them, not for you." "I know," she said, "but it matters." For a long moment we walked in silence, boots crunching. I wasn't sure if I was angrier at her or at the fact that I still loved her, some stubborn reflex that refused to vanish in one morning. Love doesn't switch off, it just freezes until you decide what to do with it. That night, after the kids fell asleep in the second room, I sat by the window watching the snow drift under the parking lot light. Eva sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone, pretending to read. The air between us was thick with everything unsaid. "Do you want to talk?" she asked finally. "Not yet," I said. "Right now, I just want to understand what broke, because something did." She set her phone down. "It wasn't just one thing. You stopped talking to me like I was a person. It was always plans, lists, bills, chores. We became a company instead of a couple. I stared at her. And your solution was to find someone else? No, she said. It wasn't a plan. It was a mistake that felt like air when I couldn't breathe. I didn't respond. I just watched the frost creep up the glass. Somewhere down the hall, another family was laughing at a movie. The sound stung more than the silence. When dawn came, I packed the kids quietly. Eva stood by the door, coat on, hands twisting her scarf. I'll stay one more night, she said. You should take them home. Do what you need, I answered. But when you come back, things will be different. I won't let this just fade. Her eyes filled, but she nodded. I loaded the kids into the SUV, buckled them in, checked mirrors. As we drove away, I saw her small shape in the mirror, watching us go, her hand half lifted, uncertain whether to wave. 2 weeks later, she moved back into the house, quietly. The kids had missed her too much for me to push her away yet. We talked through a counselor, a calm woman who used words like accountability and repair. Eva took them seriously. I tried to, but the hurt sat heavy, waiting for a verdict. One night, while sorting laundry, I found a note in Jordan's jacket. He'd written a line from a song, "Don't let anger be your compass." It hit me how much he was learning from this, even without lectures. That was when I decided revenge wasn't about fury. It was about reclaiming peace, showing the kids that integrity survives even betrayal. My revenge wasn't fire, it was clarity. I started focusing on myself. I ran in the mornings again, cooked dinners that didn't come from boxes, took the kids hiking on weekends. Ava saw it, and for the first time in years, she wasn't the center of my days. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I simply became someone she couldn't manipulate with guilt. The real sting came when she realized I wasn't trying to punish her. I was outgrowing the version of myself who'd been easy to hurt. One evening, after putting the kids to bed, she approached me in the kitchen. "You've changed," she said softly. "I had to," I replied. "If I didn't, that weekend would have been the end of me." She looked down. "Do you still want to try?" "I want us to be honest, whatever that looks like. If it means ending, fine. If it means rebuilding, it'll take time." Her voice trembled. "I'll do anything." I shook my head. "Don't say anything. Show me. Show them." Weeks passed and slow trust crept back like dawn light. We attended therapy. We rebuilt routines. There were still moments I caught flashes of that room, that morning, but they dulled with every new day that wasn't poisoned by lies. I didn't forgive her to let her off the hook. I forgave her so I could stop being the man who woke up every day replaying pain. My sons saw that strength isn't shouting or hitting walls, it's walking away from darkness and building something worth staying in. That was my revenge. Not her tears, not the other man's fear, but peace. The day spring arrived, we took the kids back to the same lake. The ice had melted, the boats bobbed gently, and Mia pointed to the water, shouting, "Look, Daddy! The snowman's ship melted!" Eva smiled faintly. I smiled back, not as lovers, maybe not even as partners, just as two people who had broken and were still somehow standing in the light. And for that day, it was enough. Months passed, quietly at first. Life didn't snap back into shape. It settled into something slower, more deliberate. The morning chaos of cereal, backpacks, and school buses returned, but the silence between Ava and me was different now, less sharp, more thoughtful. We spoke like two people walking across a frozen lake, careful with each step, but moving forward anyway. Counseling helped, though not in the way I expected. The therapist didn't hand us forgiveness. She handed us mirrors. I saw my own pride, my blind spots, the way I'd hidden behind work instead of connection. Eva saw her loneliness for what it was, a wound she'd tried to numb instead of heal. There were still bad nights when memories flooded in, but fewer of them. Slowly, something like peace began to grow. The kids adapted faster than we did. Mia drew pictures of our family again, stick figures holding hands. Max started calling both of us to his bedtime stories. Luke and Jordan stopped flinching when Eva entered a room. The house no longer felt like a battlefield. It felt lived in again. One evening, after dinner, I found Ava sitting on the porch watching the sunset. She turned when I stepped outside. "You could have left," she said. "You had every reason to." I thought about it, I admitted, but I realized leaving wouldn't erase anything. Staying, rebuilding, might actually teach the kids something better. She nodded, eyes glistening. "Do you still love me?" I took a long breath. "Yes, but it's different now. It's not blind. It's a choice I make every day." We sat in silence as the light faded, our hands resting inches apart. No grand gestures, no perfect words, just two people who had survived something they never thought they could. A year later, we drove back to that same lake for a weekend trip. The air was warmer, the snow gone, replaced by sunlight flickering across the water. Mia and Max built sandcastles. Luke and Jordan rented kayaks. Eva and I stood by the dock, the ghosts of that first visit somewhere far behind us. "I'm sorry," she said again, softly, almost to herself. "I know," I replied, "and I believe you." We didn't need to say more. Some stories don't end with triumph, they end with understanding. My revenge had never been destruction, it was becoming whole again without bitterness. As the sun dipped below the hills, I watched my family laughing by the water and realized the truth I'd been chasing since that winter morning. Peace isn't given. It's built. One honest day at a time.